Hello, you're watching Stretford, Paddock. We're here for the news this morning, Monday morning, back to work. Boring, isn't it? Right, first news, we're going to be talking about Mauricio Pochettino today, as you've seen on the thumbnail. It looks as though he wants to be Man United manager and that United are sort of maybe keeping an eye on him, kind of having a chat with him behind the scenes. Who really knows exactly what's going on? But it looks as though United are certainly not ruling it out. Not, I don't know. It's hard to. It's one of those where you sort of go, "What do you mean they're just sort of keeping him there, or he's just sort of playing around?" Is he? Because either he wants to manage United or he doesn't. And does he want to manage someone else who's offering any jobs? Is he waiting for any job? Is he waiting for the Madrid job? Is he waiting for the Juventus job? Is he waiting for the United job? Because let's be honest, he's a manager who's been sacked from his last job. Who says that he's got loads of offers anyway? But it seems as though he wants to join United. This is coming from loads of different sources, the Mirror, the Sun, all sorts. So this is in the Mirror. It says Mauricio Pochettino hasn't given up hope of being Manchester United manager next season. The former Spurs boss, still out of the game after being sacked by Tottenham almost 3 months ago, is still hovering on United's radar. Which, whatever that exactly means. But it says, but the only way United will ditch Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is if they have another shocking end to the season and finish outside the top six, which, of course, we are currently outside the top six, although we have played a game less than a few of the teams above us now. With no top-level European football this season, United currently sitting 7th, which I think they're now 8th in the Premier League, 6 points off 4th place Chelsea. The club's American owners are concerned about falling revenues. Well, I mean, again, it comes back to this thing for me of this is a man who's just been sacked from his last job. So it's not as though he's, been headhunted by every single team in the world. Real Madrid seem to be doing quite well this season, top of La Liga, I believe. Madrid was another place that he was linked with. Juventus aren't doing particularly well under Sarri, but they're still level points with top team Inter. So it's not like they're, doing terribly over at Juventus either. I don't know where he's going to go, Pochettino, to be quite honest. He could maybe go to PSG, but it's not like he's got hundreds of offers on the table. He's like, you know what, I'm going to wait for United. United definitely want me, I'm going to wait for them. I think he's probably got his eye on about 4 or 5 different jobs. Let me know what you think. Do you think it's worth him kind of holding out for United, or do you think he's kind of playing that, you know what, I'll hold out for you when really no one's offering him a job in the first place? Let me know what you think anyway. Let me know what you think to Poch. It's an interesting one. It seems like whenever United lose, you hear of all the people coming out, all the fans coming out saying, oh, we should get Pochettino in like he's never lost a match. And when United are winning, obviously, there's less sort of clamour for Pochettino because we don't seem to need him. But Barca just hired someone. Zidane is settled again. Yeah. Okay, then be my guest, keep Ole. Okay, it's not up to me, but, you have to be sacked to become available. Is that suggesting that United could get someone who's already in a job somewhere and take him out of that job, or I don't know. Man United need a top manager. Let's say Poch. Oh, let's Poch, they say. Well, never mind, he's won nothing and cracked at Spurs. Yeah, people seem to forget that when United are losing. I'm not sure why everyone is talking about Ole. If Ole gets top 4, completely irrelevant. He just doesn't and will process the guile to be a top manager. I don't quite know what that means, but I assume you're saying that Solskjaer can do well even if he doesn't finish top 4. Players just sitting and dying in United. We're going nowhere fast. I don't think there's that many players sitting and dying at United. I think they've got rid of a lot of players who you would call the dead wood type of players, and I think a lot of the players who have stayed have improved under Solskjaer. Poch was sacked at Tottenham, remember, and replaced by the last flop manager from MUFC. People are really excited this morning. Some good anger in the comments. I'm enjoying it. We're 8th, let's be real. No style of play, no intensity, no plan B. Players stagnating. Again, the players stagnating bit. I think we've clearly seen Fred improve, Rashford improve, Greenwood improve, McTominay's continued his progress, Lindelof's improved, Brandon Williams has come through. I don't know who's necessarily stagnating. I think I can't even think who would be stagnating. I think Matic has even improved under Solskjaer. He looked burnt out and dead under Mourinho toward the end of his tenure there. And I think in the last 6 to 8 weeks, Matic has looked like the player he was a season and a half ago. So I don't quite know who's stagnating, actually. I think we've got a thin squad that's performing better than it was 12 months ago. Well, not 12 months ago, or under Mourinho anyway. Fred has improved, yeah, exactly. Bring back Reddy Meulenstein as a coach. I think it's hard. There's only so much you can coach. Obviously great coaches do better than bad coaches, but I don't know what bringing just Rene back just by himself would do. You don't know what kind of relationship he has with Solskjaer and how that would affect the rest of the coaches, so it's not always as easy as that. I'd love to see what Pep and Ole would do with each other's squads. Would tell us a lot. How good would that be? Like wife swap, but for Premier League managers. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a 48-year-old from Norway. He's going to be managing Manchester City for the next 6 months. That would be a pretty fun experiment, to be honest. Who do we need to sign? Well, I think quite a few players. But yeah, let me know what you think to Pochettino in particular, and what do you think to the idea that he wants United and he's holding out for this job at United. Do you think he is doing that really, or do you think this is more just a kind of a way of spinning the fact that he hasn't managed to find anything else yet? Ole has to be given at least 2 years. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Would you rather have kept Smalling and used the 80 million on midfield and right wing / striker? No, because I don't think there was a midfield or right wing / striker available, or that United wanted at the time. I think we needed a centre back, and it's easy to look back at Chris Smalling now and say, "Oh, he wasn't that much worse than Maguire," but he was worse than Maguire, and we've improved on a player, and it happened to cost 80 million. I think United are generally willing to spend a bit of money when the right player becomes available, and he was available, so we spent the money. I think you can go back through the whole squad and say, well, would you have kept 80 million for Pogba or whoever and bought someone else in? You can't just buy a right winger just because you've got 80 million in the bank. I would guess the midfielders and wingers / strikers we wanted weren't available at any fee, let alone 80 million. So I think you've just got to buy who's available, who fits the criteria of the person you're going for. 30 for Yuri Tielemans and 50 for Lozano. How's Lozano done this season? I think Tielemans is a good player. And maybe would have improved the team, but I don't think the 30 million we didn't spend on Tielemans was the same 30 million that was in Maguire's deal. I think we could have spent another 30 if we liked Tielemans. I guess we just didn't like him. And Lozano looks like an exciting player, but I don't think he's a world-class winger by any means. The truth is, Ole's got injuries to his top players. Any manager will struggle. On top of that, he hasn't mentioned or complained about it, although I think it's not good tactically, but give him time. Yeah, there's a good point, actually, because how much did Mourinho used to get criticism for always whinging about people being injured and not got enough players and all this sort of stuff, and everyone's going, you've got to put on a brave face. You're going to lose the dressing room by doing all this, which we saw he seemingly did. And then now when Solskjaer's a bit more positive and doesn't come out whinging every week, oh, he's a soft touch, he's too easily, he's a pushover, you've got to have a bit more steel. It's like there is a way to criticise every single style of management. There is a way to criticise every single personality type. And no matter what you do, there's always a different way of doing things that people can take the piss out of you for. So it literally comes down to, are you winning games or aren't you? If you are, you won't get the piss taken out of you. If you aren't, you will. There's no one way of doing things, and there's always a sort of alternate way to do things that seemingly is better when you aren't winning games. And I think it's as simple as that, really. Can someone explain what our principles of play are? Ole has no philosophy. Counter-attack is an adjustment, not a style. I don't know. I think we're obviously seeing more high pressing than we used to see under Mourinho. I think the counter-attack is you say it's not a style of play, but it's won us a lot of games. And I think managers have certainly built careers on counter-attacking football. And I don't know. I think the style of players, can we get some players back from injury, please? Genuinely think Nuno would be better than Poch. Maybe, but again, all of these managers like Nuno, like Poch, they come in and if they haven't done well in 6 months, all of a sudden they fall back. The default position is, well, they've never won anything in their career, so they must be shit. Let's get rid of them. There's a way to slag off and completely destroy any manager, basically. Even if you got Zidane in, well, yeah, he's won 3 Champions Leagues and a La Liga, but he didn't win as many La Ligas as Barcelona did at the same time, so he can't be as good as the failed managers at Barca. There's always a way to make a manager look bad. Right, let's move on to our next story then. We'll come back to this in a little bit. United players are sort of finally coming back from injury. A couple of key players. We've got Scott McTominay, who's paid tribute to Man United coaching staff and members who are helping him overcome the physical and mental challenges posed by his first injury in senior football. That's an interesting part to me, how he's 23-year-old now, and it's his first real injury, which I think is a sort of an underrated factor in how well people's careers progress and stuff. He's had, when he was sort of 18, 19, he wasn't necessarily considered one of the better players at the youth team. He was a good player, but he had a big growth spurt, a few other factors seem to line up for him. But not getting injured is a huge part of people's playing careers, and the fact that he's only had his first injury at 23, obviously it has to be managed and rehabilitated the right way. But it's a good sign in terms of a career going forward, because there's so many players who are as talented as anyone, but their ankles aren't strong enough or their hamstrings aren't strong enough, and persistent injuries that plague people while they're developing that really can stunt your progress. And obviously we've seen from McTominay his rapid rise in both quality and status at the club. Obviously it's down to his talent and his work ethic, but having a fit body and not getting injured is definitely a good thing to have. He said he's been a stand-up player this season, and as well as an eloquent speaker, if manunited.com are to be believed. In this exclusive interview with the 23-year-old is a must-read for all Reds. Ooh, very interesting. But he's talking, basically he talks in there about his injury and how one of the more difficult parts of an injury, and especially your first injury, is the mental side of things. Obviously, anyone can sit and rest for a few months, but that mental side where you're so used to being in the team, you've seen the team lose matches and drop points, and people not necessarily playing well in your position as well. It must be difficult to sort of sit on the sidelines and watch that. It also goes hand in hand as well with Axel Tuanzebe coming back from injury, who you've probably seen both of them training and warming up in Marbella, where United are currently on their warm weather training. It's good. Let me know in the comments what you think to having these two players back, especially McTominay, who was probably just about, alongside Rashford, the first name on the team sheet for the first sort of 10 weeks of the season. A lot of people still talking about Ole in the comments, as I'm sure we expected. But let me know what you think to McTominay. Someone's here saying McTominay is an amazing person to have in the squad, I reckon. Yeah, there was something the other day where he came out and said about how well the new players have settled in and they've got good personalities and that they're exciting to have around the dressing room, and people replying on Twitter saying, who cares about his opinion? He's just another player commenting from the bench. Who cares about McTominay's opinion? Like, no players are allowed to say anything anymore. It's just the sort of the current feeling around the club is, or certainly in some sections of the fan base, is just quite destructive, I think. But I think he always seems like someone who talks well and he speaks highly of the club. And again, as we've said before, he seems like someone that wants United to win more than anything, and he's a sort of seemingly United fan. And the way he speaks, again, like someone said there, he's got excellent kind of way with words, and he seems to appreciate the right things about a club, and I think that's one of the things that sort of stood him in such good stead so far this season. Fernandez has settled in well, according to Ross Murphy. I don't know about that. I'm sure he has. Sancho Richarlison as right wing, and Grealish is part of a midfield three with Bruno, and we can solidify our top four spot and then add a little depth, and we will have our title charge. Interesting. Someone said toxic fake fans out. Yeah, I don't know how you can get that. I don't know how you can do that, because people don't seem to leave, do they? But yeah, well, same as what Fred said about players being too vain. I don't know what that's in relation to, but I don't know. I think there does seem to me, at least in this season, to be a bit more of an emphasis and a pressure on players to be playing more for the club and more for the shirt than there has been in recent years. It seems as though there is, with Solskjaer coming back in, there is a shift back towards that kind of United first style of play. Let's move on to our final story today. Then this is talking about the Bruno Fernandez transfer. Someone mentioned him in there. This is coming from the Evening Standard, and this is saying that Sporting are relieved that they did not sell Bruno Fernandez to Tottenham after holding out for Man United offer. Sporting Lisbon president Bruno Fernandez has revealed the club nearly sold Bruno Fernandez to Tottenham this summer, and spoke of his relief that they held out for a better offer. So obviously most of Sporting's kind of interest and their kind of the thing they care about mostly is the fee that you get for a player. He said United paid 46.5 million plus add-ons for Fernandez, which actually, looking at that, when you see that figure 46.5, that's decent, isn't it? For once, we haven't been completely destroyed in a transfer there, I think. I know it can go up to something like 65, I think. Well, that's stuff like PFA Player of the Year. That's, things that, again, as people always say, if we've paid it, then it was worth it. But a starting fee of 46.5 million for one of the statistically best midfielders in Europe. Obviously, he's coming from a slightly lower quality league, but is a midfielder with ludicrous numbers. I think that's a decent price to pay. At the end of June, we had become aware that we were going to sell Bruno. This is according again to the Verandas. The last 4 days of the market were the worst of my presidency. That's when I realised we didn't sell Bruno Fernandez. Imagine hearing that as Bruno Fernandez. We didn't sell you, and it was the worst days of my life. Bruno was very conditioned by his return. Was very conditioned by his return. If Sporting refused a bid of 35, we would have to give his agent 5 million. This clause was made public irresponsibly. It basically goes on to say, in January for 63 million euros, practically certain. So he's keen. He reckons that Bruno's going to get this PFA Player of the Year award. It was shown that we did well to resist and not accept the proposal of Tottenham. So again, it's another thing of United having to pay a little bit more than other clubs maybe. But again, here's actually another way of looking at it, is that I think United in recent years have been kind of laughed at a little bit for not just going and getting the player we wanted. Well, you know what, if you want him, just spend the money. And it's clear that United have done that here, willing to spend more than the likes of Tottenham for Bruno Fernandes when we've identified him as the man who's right for the club. So I think, sometimes it's easy to look at the downside of things, but I think it's nice to see that, like I said, United are willing to spend a bit more money. A few comments then. Toby saying, I love McSauce. I think about the mentality of a young player, potentially big career in front of him, and he's taken on this injury, and his sole focus is to get back on the pitch for our club. Yeah, exactly. And it looks as though he's going to be coming back slightly earlier than expected. I'm not sure if he'll be ready for the Chelsea game, but there was videos of him sprinting and doing some ball dribbling drills as well. So I think obviously he's not too far away. Obviously his fitness is going to be miles off, but I would expect him hopefully to maybe be on the bench or be in the squad for the Chelsea game, and hopefully sort of continue his recovery after that. Again, still no Pogba. I think he's just got his walking boot off again for the second time this season. He likes wearing that boot, but he's managed to get that off again. And I think Rashford as well is still a while away from coming back. Uncle Doobie saying Poch is no solve at all. Yeah, maybe. Timber as a CDM, your opinion on was quality in his academy days when he played as a CDM. I think in theory it's a nice idea. CDM is one of the more difficult positions I think to play in the Premier League. It requires such incredible and impeccable positioning. And there's one thing doing it in the academy and another thing doing it in the league. But I'd like to see him given a chance, maybe in the FA Cup or in the Europa League or something like that, and go from there. But yeah, I mean, I think CDM is a position where we're lacking. So any way that we could get someone in to play that and play it well would be a bonus. So yeah, give him a go. Let's see what he can do. The fact that Man United is hurting from the lack of Scott McTominay is symptomatic of how bad things are at United. Maybe, but regardless of how bad things are, he's still one of our better players, so we want him back. You can't say, well, we should have better players than him, so he's not playing anymore. He is one of our better players, certainly one of our better midfield players, so he has to play. And then we need to get other players around him that will improve the squad. So, yes, it is maybe symptomatic of how bad the squad is, but you can't not play him just because we should have better players than him. We don't, and he's been good, so play him. Right, that's going to be all for today. We're going to be back later on with Howson's Brew at 4 o'clock as per usual. So thank you very much for joining us, and be sure to tune in for that, and we'll see you in a bit.